Welcome to the Rebel Scum Con 20th Anniversary Prequel Trilogy panel. I'm real excited to get this going, so let's start it up. First, we have Mr. Jar Jar Binks himself, Ahmed Best. And everyone's favorite blue alien, other than Thrawn, I guess, Miss Amy Allen. I'm sorry, I should have gotten you blue. I got you black. Sorry, it's okay. And Miss Michonne Bourriague, Aura Singh, and Nalini Krishan Barasafi. There we go.
1, 2.
I don't know if we're calling it the 25th Anniversary Prequel Trilogy or just the Prequel Trilogy. I decided to call it 25th because last month, of course, was 25 years that fantastic movie came out, and I just wanted to, the Prequel Trilogy started, I should say, with the Phantom Menace. But let's start with you. How are you doing, Ahmed?
Chilling. How you?
I'm chilling. So how did you get involved in Star Wars? How did you get involved in the Phantom Menace?
The Phantom Menace. So I was doing a show in New York called Stomp, which was on 2nd Avenue in St. Mark's, on the Lower East Side. And at the time, there was a couple of tours going on. So I started in the New York show. I did the New York show for about a year and a half. I'm from New York City. And then I went on tour. And on the tour, we had just been doing what's called split week. So every week you're in 2 cities. And so we ended up in San Francisco, which was our first lengthy sit down. We got to be in San Francisco for a month. And we were really excited to be in San Francisco. But because of split weeks, I'll try to make this story as short as possible. Because of split weeks, one of the guys in the show got really, really sick. And he had to go back home to North Carolina. So a dude who came from New York came and filled in, but he had seniority over me. So I was leading the show at the time, but apparently he had family or he went to college in San Francisco and he was just like, well, I'm gonna lead the show now. And so I had to play a role that I hadn't played in 8 months. And I was very young and very arrogant, I think the word is. And I was not happy about it. So I did the show, but I was a complete ass. My whole thing about that show was I'm going to make sure that nobody looks at you and everybody's gonna look at me. So, and that's what happened. So the dude was not as good I'm a drummer, and Stomp was about, found object percussion and communication. So I was way better at drumming than he was, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and we had just been doing split weeks, and doing split weeks with a cast, if you're in a show, it's like going to war, right? So we had just come from Vietnam. We were good, and we all knew each other. We were all inside each other's heads. So all they had to do was look at me, and I'd give them a look, and they knew what I was doing, right? And they already felt like I was on one that night. And so everybody knew when I was on one to get the hell out of the way, So they were just like, oh shit, here comes Ahmed. And I was out there and I was crazy. So did the show, made this dude look like an ass. At the end of the show, I had groupies in the audience, cause I was so over the top, right? So we do this piece called Encore, and with Encore, we're just standing around, and the guy who's leading the show is supposed to lead the audience, and nobody was looking at him, everybody was looking at me, right? And so I'm in the end of the show, and we're doing Encore, and I'm looking at my group, and I start pointing at them like I'm in the Beatles and shit. I'm oh yeah, I like y'all. And then I take my shirt off, no bullshit. I take my shirt off, and I throw it into the audience, and all the girls are like, oh my God, he's and they catch it, and everybody, all my castmates are on stage like this, oh my God. So after that show, right, I go to the dressing room, and I feel really shit because Stomp only works as an ensemble, right? There's 8 people on stage, and I really made it about me, and I felt terrible about it. And so one of my castmates named RJ Sampson comes up into the dressing room and he goes, yo, Ahmed. And I'm like, don't talk to me right now, RJ. I'm pissed off, man. I know it was a suck show. I know what I did. Don't talk to me right now. And he was like, no, I brought somebody to the show.
Oh.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, the casting director for Star Wars. I brought her to the show. And I was like, oh, And I felt terrible because I thought I messed up RJ's shot. I thought she came to see RJ because he invited her. Stomp had done a private show for Lucasfilm. I wasn't in that show. RJ was. And RJ auditioned for Jar Jar first, before me. Because George liked his face. And so he kept in touch with Robin Gerlin, who was the casting director for episode 1, right? So he invited Robin. I acted a complete asshole and totally fucked up RJ's shot, right? And I was like, yo, RJ, I'm sorry, bro. Like, and he was like, no. She wants to talk to you. And I was like, why does she want to talk to me after that? Like, is it about to get weird or something tonight? Like, are we going to do some...
She wants an over-the-top character.
Do you want to do some weird shit? And he was like, nah, go to the crib. This is before I had a cell phone, before cell phones. Youngsters.
This is like 96, right? 95?
96, yeah. Yeah, 96. He was like, go to the crib. She's going to call you. I walked, San Francisco is uphill both ways. I walked both ways uphill, go to the crib, my phone rings. And it's Robin. And she was like, I want you to come up to the ranch. And I was like, what ranch? Whose ranch you talking about? I don't know what is this ranch? She was like, I want you to come to the ranch and audition. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you what you're going to be doing. Just drive up to Skywalker and audition for the show. And I was like, bet. So I'm in the car and I'm driving up Lucas Valley Road. It's called Lucas Valley Road. And I'm just like, this is bananas. Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw in my entire life in a theater. It was the very first, A New Hope. I'm driving to Lucas Valley Road. I get to the gates, Skywalker Ranch. I'm like, should I sit? Before I even press a button, the shit opens, right? I go inside, and, they have their own, fire brigade, Skywalker, right? And sometimes they go to, local places and help the fire people, but they have their own fire engines and fire people. And so the first dude I see at the ranch is as the greeting box, and he's a fireman, and he has the Skywalker Ranch fire patch on, and it's an X-Wing fighter on the patch. And I was like, I'm getting that patch.
I have them at my booth.
Oh, I stole, I can't tell you how many of them shirts I got right. I took every single one. That dude was naked by the time I was done. I was like, thank you. And I go to the big Skywalker house and I audition. And she doesn't tell me what it is, but my audition ended up being that first scene with Liam where I'm like in the swamp and I'm looking at some shit, and then Liam comes up and I jump on him. You're welcome, Liam Neeson. And we fall into the swamp. But that's how I got in.
That's a great story. I was expecting something really quick. That was like, you need to patent that. Yeah, how are we going to...
I know, how do we we're done.
We're done. The Lucas Valley Road is not named after George Lucas.
Yes, I know that.
It's a total coincidence.
Totally. I rubbed it in his face, too.
And it's named, I think it's Thomas Lucas, and he was a prospector from, you remember the 49ers, the 1849ers, the
That's
gold?
right.
But,
Gold Rush.
But I wonder if his descendants, Lucas might be one of them, because Lucas grew up not too far from there.
Yeah, he grew up a little bit north.
Yeah, but I mean,
So it
generally-
probably was a Lucas family thing.
you-
It's
'cause you're-
probably a distant relative ancestor.
maybe like an uncle or something like that.
Probably. I mean, he built Skywalker there when there was nothing there. Right. So he was probably just like, Lucas Valley Road, what a coinky dink. I'll just put this right here.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. But Amy, how did you get involved in the prequel trilogy?
It's so funny you mentioned that patch. I think I'm not on. Where's my little...
Yeah, good
There we
job.
go. Okay. It's okay.
It's all right, we're
Easy fix.
actors.
It's
Easy
okay.
fix.
I'm not going to get.
We're actors. We can't flip a switch.
Oh boy. I think I tried actually looking for that patch at one point because my brother's a firefighter.
Yeah.
And I did a deep dive, and I could not find it.
I got 9 of them. See, they
Can I buy one off you?
Oh, I got you beat. I got 200 at my booth at 107 right now.
They
Yeah.
don't. They didn't sell those. The X-wing
Right,
fighters. They
yeah.
sold one with like a Millennium Falcon on it because the X-wing fighter one is like official.
It's like one of those things I've always wanted to like, because my brother loves patches. He's like
Yeah.
that guy. Anyways, hi guys. So, and I got distracted when I saw you, Pink, over there. You look great. Squirrel.
That's she represents Sabak for charity. They're raising money by gambling in Dallas, right? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, okay. Well, we'll chat.
Oh, that's right. You guys are related, I guess,
are.
right? Yeah, you know, just
She's pink. I'm blue.
absolutely.
Straight up gender reveal vibes right there.
Wait, that's a good idea.
10%. Thank you.
Okay, so I got started because I was a production assistant working for Industrial Light and Magic, which is part of Lucasfilm. It was my first job out of college. I went to San Francisco State. My roommate at the time, who I grew up with in Southern California, got a job in the art department. So I shamelessly asked her to pass my resume along, and she did. And I interviewed with some friends who I just saw a few weeks ago when we went on a little vacation together. Thank God they took a chance, because I had no experience at all. So they hired me, and I sort of took the position of what's called a floater production assistant, because they didn't quite have a place for me, and they would have me kind of help out wherever they needed somebody. And then I ended up in the office of the VP of Lucas ILM, who had been with George since I think she was like in her early 20s. Chrissy England. Did you ever meet Chrissy? Yeah, so I was in Chrissy's office, and then from there I landed on episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And my production manager, George would come from the ranch Tuesdays and Thursdays for dailies. There was a meeting, and he handed over a photocopy of my character from the cover of a comic book, and he wanted to sort of just, I think, kind of pepper me in wherever. And they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said yes. And it kind of all happened from there. I did the crossover. And then I did a few days of shooting, and then I was back to being a production assistant. And then episode 2 came out, and then I attended my very first Star Wars celebration where I met Michonne. And then I ended up quitting like a little bit after that, because I started being asked, we started doing conventions, and then you start getting, Japan's calling, come to Japan, and this convention, and it was just a whole different world of conventions back then too. It was just a different time. And so it was just really a fantastic opportunity to sort of really get the character out there and meet all the Star Wars fans. So, yeah.
No, it was a great character.
Yeah. I still honestly, we always talk about this, that all these years later, the character has remained, popular, and now all these prequel kids are just, boom, just coming out, and I grew up watching these movies, and that to me is the coolest thing, 25 to 30 range, these. Yeah. Wow. I played your character in the video game, and you were my mom's favorite Jedi, or my dad introduced me to Star Wars, and it just keeps going, which I think is so cool. So.
All right, Michonne, same question for you. How'd you get involved?
So I was actually really interested in modeling, and so I went and kind of entered that world, and I was working out of San Francisco. That's where my mother agency was, and I had actually only been with my agency for a week, and my Z card was out, and I got pulled. So here I thought I was gonna, maybe work for Levi Strauss out of San Francisco or something, but I can play an alien in a Star Wars movie. So yeah, it was, I don't know, the timing was great, and I went and did filming, and just never, I thought, okay, cool, I get to work with, George Lucas, and I actually didn't know if I would ever meet him, because only in the movie, as you know, for 2 seconds. But he actually was there on the day of filming, and so I got to meet him, which was really mind-blowing. Tried to keep it together that whole time. And then I just thought, okay, I'm a part of modern history. What a cool experience. And now I'm going to go, do this whole modeling thing. And I moved to Europe and lived in Italy and had a great time. And I got a call when I was over there, and they were like, so that character you played in Star Wars, yeah, she's like blowing up in comic books and like action figures. And I was like, what? I was in the movie for like 2 seconds. People blink and I'm gone. So then that opened up that whole world, like Amy was talking about. I kind of came back home, and there was this opportunity to go out and meet fans and travel the world and promote the character. And I was like, wow, this is so. It's been such an amazing ride. I feel like it was such a massive blessing in my life, that little 2 seconds. So yeah, that's my story.
Oh, there you go. And we're going to have to share the mic because we only have 4. Kentucky.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's totally fine.
Nalina, how about you? That's the same question for you.
So I actually had an interesting story, but
You can make
really
one up.
don't.
It's okay. You can just.
So
I
here's
did.
what's really interesting is I was actually with a modeling agency. The modeling agency rang me and she said, oh, Jack Productions, which was the production company they set up in Australia for filming Star Wars, rang and basically said, they want to see me. And I said, okay, I'll go in. I said, okay, I have to prep for this audition. It's going to be really nerve-wracking. It's Lucasfilms. And I went in, and I didn't go into an audition room. I went to Fox Studios Australia, and I had a few different people surrounding me, and they started to measure me up. And I'm wondering, okay, what's going on? Am I not here for an audition? Because my agent didn't tell me anything. She didn't say you're going for an audition. She just said they want to see you. So I went, and they kept referencing this image. And then they would measure me, and they'd reference this image. And I said, am I playing this character? And they said yes. I was like, oh, okay. Do we know anything about this character? They said no. And so I played Barriss Offee, and throughout the whole filming, I did not know who I played. They did not let me know. It was very secretive. We did not know. I don't know if you guys got interviewed. There was a guy interviewing on set. Like, he interviewed me, and he asked, how does it feel to play Barriss Offee? I said, I don't even know who she is. It was very awkward, and I felt very like, oh my God, I should know who she is. But it came as a total surprise, and the girl that played my master, Luminarium Julie, Mario Yaya, auditioned. So she auditioned, and I didn't. And I'm thinking, why did one of us audition, the other didn't? I know that...
Because you have the same amount of dialogue.
Exactly. We were like hyped for our fighting abilities. But no, she just literally went in for like a quick audition and got the part. And I just was given the part. So that was basically my story.
Well, that's cool. And have you followed up on what Barriss Offee's been doing lately?
Yes,
I
have.
She's had a lot of changes.
She's had a lot of heat, actually. A lot of people weren't happy with her with what she did to Ahsoka, but I'm very happy with what they did in Tales of the Empire.
One thing I find about Star Wars fans, about half of them like the bad guys. My favorite character is Darth Vader, so, and I'm sure a lot of people here have.
You know, growing up, my favorite character was Darth Vader too. You know, I didn't like Barriss Offee being bad. I just thought it didn't really fit her character. You know, I thought she was a good gal, you know, and she's a great Jedi. And then I'm just happy. Has everyone seen Tales of the Empire here? Okay, so if I talk about it, I'm not breaking.
Yeah, they're all pretty diehard out here.
Okay, so I'm very happy that she redeemed herself in Tales of the Empire. I'm not happy that they, again, like Clone Wars, we're questioning what happened to her. Did she become an Inquisitor, or did she die? Or, you know, we're doing the same thing again in Tales of the Empire. We don't know what's happened to her. We know she's aged. We know that she's redeemed herself. But is she dead or alive? It ends the same way. So yeah.
I guess so. But anyway, so do you have a favorite scene for Jar Jar?
Favorite Jar Jar scene is probably all of the stuff that happens in the submarine on the way to
Goober fish.
from Auto Gunga up. A lot of that is because I loved shooting that scene with the Jedis in the back. It was that scene. That was kind of the first scene where I got Liam to uncontrollably lose his shit. And then like it became a mission like every day. I was like, I am going to make Liam Neeson just blow takes. Just even if it's just one. Right before he did Phantom Menace, he was doing Les Miserables, which was very heavy. You know, it's Victor Hugo and it's French Revolution and not the musical version, right? It's like the straight, like everything, and he was Jean Valjean. So he came into Phantom Menace like really serious, and I was just like, challenge accepted. So we're doing this scene, and I had this ridiculous line, which is like, Ewan is like, Jar Jar, how were you? Why were you
banished?
Yeah. Right? And he's like, I'm banished because I'm clumsy. And he's like, you banished because you were clumsy. And I was like, yeah. I caused one to a bitty accident, you might say, boom the gasser, then crash in the boss's hay blibber, then banished, right? So the three of us were like, what does this mean? Right? And so I go to George and I'm like, hey George, I really don't understand like what you want, how you want this. Like, what does this mean? Boom the gasser, crash in the boss's hay blibber, then banished? And George goes like this, I don't know. I was like, what? So I was like, perfect opportunity for me to do that's ridiculous, right? So I said it different every single time, right? One time I just like screamed it, just like really, really loud, and Liam laughed so hard his mustache flew off. So every time like he was about to laugh, he'd be like, no, and he just kept pressing his mustache down so it wouldn't fly off. But yeah, that's probably my favorite, all of that, the Naboo stuff.
Oh, that's excellent. That's hilarious. So, what's going on with Kelleran Beck?
I don't know, everybody wants to know that. So Kelleran Beck, so I created Kelleran Beck for Jedi Temple Challenge, which was a game show that happened, thank you. I'm glad, we only got one season. I thought the show was so cool, because you had all of these, the best part of being a game show host, I've always wanted to be a game show host. The best part of being a game show host on that game show is like when you see all of these little kids walk into a Star Wars set, it feels like their faces just completely light up, and it makes it so real and so tangible, and it was just so wonderful seeing all of these young people. They took it so seriously, And some of those games were hard. Like there's one game where like they have to swing from one side to the other, like almost like Ninja Warrior, and we were losing kids. They were like, pow! And I was like, oh! There's a bunch of shots where I was just like, that's gonna hurt. And there were a couple of times where, I shouldn't tell you this, the first time they did that swing, nobody was wearing gloves, so like, they were like, rope burns and everything, and first aid was coming in, and I was like, we need to get the children gloves if they're gonna be doing this thing. But Kelleran was someone I was very passionate about because I love creating lore, I love creating stories, I love writing, as a writer and a director myself, I was just like, okay, this is gonna be a good chance for me to throw in all my Star Wars knowledge and energy. But Kelleran, the name Kelleran is kind of I came up with that name because I like derivations and etymologies of names, like Wilhelm is William, and my name is Ahmed, but I turned to Ahmed, and then how names evolve over time. So Kelleran is from an older time. I'm not going to tell you how old he is because that's coming out soon.
You got something new coming out with Kelleran Beck.
Did I say something?
What? Ooh.
But
we're circling back to that.
Yeah.
We're going to circle back to that.
Kelleran is the from the way I created, Kelleran is the etymological parent of Kylo Ren. So that's where Kelleran comes from. It's like if Kylo Ren through generations, Han and Leia came up with that name, Kylo Ren, it's derived from Kelleran. And Beck, the last name Beck, is from a character that I played in Clones, which was a cameo that I did in the bar with Anthony Daniels. And it was all Anthony Daniels' fault because it was my day off. I was supposed to have a day off, and Anthony was like, we're going to be in the movie, come on. And then he hands me this, like, uniform, and I was just like, bet, I'm in now. And I put the uniform on, and I was just like, I want a big scar on my. So the makeup people had a field day doing this blaster scar over my eye, right? But that character was called Ahmed Beck, after my name, right? And it was named, and nobody even told me. I was just like, what is this? And then there it was. So there is a tie between Kelleran Beck and Ahmed Beck, and I'm not going to tell you what that is yet.
Like privately?
No.
No, all right.
No.
I
could
swear I won't tell
you,
anybody.
But I'd have to kill you. And I like you.
You could try.
No, I would be successful. Didn't you see like the 2 lightsabers? I'm good at that stuff. So
That was a great scene. That was I'll give you that. All right.
yeah, I finally got to swing some lightsabers around. So I've been a martial artist all my life. I started when I was very, very young. My father was my first sensei, and if you've ever heard my therapy tapes, you'll know how traumatic that is. But then from there, I went on and I did Bruce Lee's martial art, Jeet Kune Do. I did that for years. And then I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then from there, I did a lot of Filipino martial arts. So I do a Filipino martial art called Eskrima. And all of Kelleran's stuff is Eskrima-based. A lot of the sword stuff in Star Wars is either wushu, which is a Chinese art, or Japanese samurai, like katana stuff. And I really wanted Filipino martial arts to be represented in the Star Wars universe because, the Filipinos beat the Japanese. And, the Filipinos, if anybody studies Filipino martial arts, they'll tell you, like, they killed Magellan, Lapu-Lapu came to the Philippines and they killed Magellan. So there are many styles in the Philippines. And the one I do is called Serrata Lagramano de Cortez. It's SLD. And so all of the Kelleran stuff is based on, in Filipino martial arts, they call it espada y daga, sword and blade. And so the 2 sword stuff is sword and blade stuff.
Okay, so it sounds like you can tell me about Kelleran Beck's future, and then you can kill me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm willing to risk
Yeah,
it, man. Let's go.
Yeah, very quickly.
I'll even tie my hands down. I want to know. I want to know. So can you say there's something? Maybe.
I can't really say very much.
That's enough telling us that you can't say something.
Yeah, I can't say
That in
very
itself
much.
is an answer.
But just like in Jedi Temple Challenge, Kelleran Beck is very different from a lot of the Jedis that we know, because a lot of the Jedis were reluctant teachers. Obi-Wan was just like, all right, I'll teach Anakin because Qui-Gon died. That's cool. Yoda was like, I don't want to teach him. And then Force Obi-Wan was like, teach him, please, right? And Qui-Gon was like, I want to teach this Anakin kid, but Yoda's not letting me, and then he dies. So nobody's really kind of psyched to be a teacher. And for Kelleran, I wanted him to be really excited. Like he can beat everybody in the galaxy, but that's not what he wants to do. He actually wants to teach. And I teach at 2 universities now, and I teach at USC in Southern California, and I teach at Stanford University. And I never wanted to be a university professor, but as soon as I started teaching, I was like, this is fantastic. I just love when my students like get it, And so I want teachers to have a superhero, Yeah, because teachers are superheroes, especially K through 12. Like, I don't teach K through 12, and K through 12 teachers should be sainted and knighted. Yeah. Because they have the hardest job, especially in the United States of America, where the educational system isn't supported in public schools. So for Kelleran, I want him to be like the superhero for teachers. And I want kids, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a Jedi. But I want kids to look at Kelleran and be like, I want to be a teacher, because I think that's passing down that information and influencing young people is exciting, and we should all love it.
I was gonna say you're like my favorite actor I've interviewed, I think, so far, and I've interviewed some big ones before, and
Do you guys have any questions for Ahmed?
I actually do. No, I actually do.
talking too much.
I do. I have a question, actually. I'll also shout out to Allie, teacher.
Do we have any other
Yes,
teachers here in the
all the
audience?
teachers,
All right, thank you
teacher,
guys. Wow,
teacher.
we have a
Thank
lot
you.
of them.
Thank you
Yes.
all.
That's like 10%.
Do your students trip out on who you are?
Only on day one, and then they see
And then
my
they're like, "Your
workload
teacher."
and the syllabus, and they're like, "Oh,
The
shit."
syllabus. He means business.
They're like, "Oh, he's here for
Oh
real."
my gosh. That's pretty cool, though, to have you as a teacher. Just saying.
So Amy, thinking about fight scenes that we were just talking about, what was your fight scene? Well, it wasn't really a fight scene because you got shot in the back, but what was that?
Well, listen.
Whoa. You got some news for me. It wasn't.
I do not have an extensive martial arts background. I mean, I was a production assistant.
Well, obviously, you just.
I did a very. Ask my kids. My kids will keep it real, and like, Mom, what are you doing? Like but I was doing my best in a situation where I didn't have really any training. So I just kind of went in there and was winging it. I really was.
Yeah, but no. You felt fine. You were, you got like 12 guys shooting you in the back. What can you do?
I mean, listen, it's me, a stunt pad, George Lucas, John Knoll, a few other people milling around, and a big, giant green screen, excuse me. That's a lot of pressure.
So there was no troopers there because they're all CGI.
It was just me. And I could not sleep the night before. You remember Jillian Libert?
Of course,
Yes.
yeah.
I think I maybe told you this. She slept with me in the hotel room. I was a mess. I was so nervous. Like I wanted to pull it off. I knew I knew a little bit about what
I think you
was happening.
you did a great job.
Thank you.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. That
But
girl's
there
dead.
was some fighting in Attack of the Clones that.
There was
Yeah,
some fighting.
that was really more where I was also winging it.
Can you speak a little bit about that? You did a little bit of lightsaber fighting in the arena, right?
So my friend who worked at ILM with me, Steve Riera, was a production assistant down in Sydney, and he came back with our ILM crew, got a job, and because he was on set every day, had sort of, was watching everybody use their lightsabers. And Nick, the stunt.
Nick Gillard.
Nick Gillard, yeah, the stunt coordinator. So he was watching all this go on. So we went to Golden Gate Park one day in San Francisco, and then he came over a few times, and he's like, "You at least got to do a few sort of key things." So when you shoot the sequence or the arena battle. So he gave me a couple pointers, but thanks.
I think you did a great job. It was very convincing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And so, Michonne, have you followed up on what happened to your character? Do you know anything about?
I don't want to talk about that.
You got killed by Woody Harrelson. That's pretty cool.
Kicked off a cliff. I'm serious. She's got.
Because he didn't kill her. It was the fall that killed her. Now that's just his story. We don't know for sure
Nobody
that's true.
saw the body. That's all I have to say.
Same.
Just for the record, we saw Darth Maul cut in half.
Yeah. Oh, there's
he
so many
lived.
characters. Yeah, I'm just messing around, but yeah, I wasn't excited about that.
So other than your own, I'm going to start with you, Nalini. Other than your character, do you have a favorite Star Wars character?
Darth Vader.
Oh, we already said that.
I do. I don't know. He was very fascinating to watch as a child because I didn't know what was behind that mask. It's like, what is this mask? What is this strange voice? It was very, I don't know how to describe. Like I was just very sort of awestruck by him. He was meant to be the baddie, but I just really was, and it was very shocking at the end when he revealed he was the father, And then for a child, that's like, oh, he's just. I don't know how you want to describe Darth Vader, but he was really cool. I always liked him.
It was always my favorite. My father did not like the fact that my favorite character was Darth Vader. And in my house right now, I have a room that's totally devoted to Darth Vader, inclusive everywhere.
Nice.
It's pretty embarrassing, to be honest. But it's what I do for a living, so I get away with it. What about Michonne? What about you? Do you have a favorite Star Wars character other than your own? You can't say your own.
Probably Boba Fett.
Go with that?
Yeah.
Oh, Boba Fett. I thought you said go with that. I'm like, what?
Boba Fett, go with that.
Boba Fett.
Yes.
Okay. This is a great character. You want to speak about him for a little bit? Like why? His armor?
I thought like his armor was really cool at that time for the movies and stuff. It was like he had all this stuff going on. He could fly, and I just thought it was cool. And then later on, obviously, the connection kind of intensified my love for Boba Fett.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Amy?
Ula. Return of the Jedi, Femi Taylor, always.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just because
Femi.
she was like one of the first people I met, and aside from Michonne, and we obviously are from the same species. I have a few, I can't narrow
It's a
it down.
sisterhood, the sisterhood
But
of,
yeah,
of
yeah.
Twi'leks. Do you say Twi'lek or Twi'lek?
I say both. It depends sometimes who I'm conversing with, because some people refer to us as Twi'leks. Some people say Twi'lek. Mostly I say Twi'lek.
Do you say Twi'lek or Twi'lek? I didn't ask you that. I did not. I specifically did not ask you that.
I say Twi'lek for the most part too. Yeah. But
So I say Twi'lek because that's how
Twi'lek.
I first read it as a kid. What do you guys say? Twi'lek? Who says Twi'lek? Raise your hand. Really? That's about
let's
half.
have a
Okay.
Twi'lek off. Let's see,
Okay. Okay. And what's it? So half of you were Twi'lek and half of you were Twi'lek. Is that what we're saying? All right. Cool. How about you, Ahmed? What's your favorite character in Star Wars?
Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Yeah, when I grew up, I wanted to be Han Solo.
I mean,
Riz. Cat had Riz.
Riz.
You feel me? Like, he was like, yo, what's up, Leia? What's good? I mean, he has so much Riz, he made Leia kiss her brother. Come on. Rizzed her up. You can't tell me the G-est line in Star Wars. I love you. I know. G! G! You know how many times I use that in the hood?
Does it work?
Yeah, it works for me. Plus, I'm already big and black. I don't need to be Darth Vader.
Yeah, I don't think I don't.
also, how do you really choose? It's a really hard question. Whenever people ask me that question, it's really hard to answer. How do you answer that question? There's just so much. It's so layered.
Riz!
Riz.
Han
Okay,
Solo.
Han Solo.
Rizzy, he had the vest and shit. He
Yeah.
was so cool.
Yes.
He shot first. Don't let nobody tell you different.
Yeah.
He shot only. He was the only one who shot. You know.
Hell yeah.
I never got. That was one of the first parts in the special edition that changed was that, and I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, Riz, B. That's what it is.
Who do you think would win between Kelleran, Beck, and Obi-Wan Kenobi in a fight?
That's a good question.
Oh, you don't want to answer because we're going to see it in the upcoming movie. Is that what you're
I'm
saying?
not saying
Is that what you're
anything.
saying? Did you just tell me that, Ahmed Best?
I'm not saying that.
So
at
Obi-Wan
all.
Kenobi and Kelleran Beck will be fighting.
Not at all.
You're going to get me fucking.
I did not say that at all. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I would, definitely.
One of my favorite questions I like to ask, and I asked the Fets in the previous panel. And I'm going to ask everybody. This is for everybody. What's your favorite movie outside of Star Wars? So you can't say a Star Wars film, but
Favorite movie outside of Star Wars,
Outside of
other
Star Wars.
than Star Wars.
Right.
Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee.
Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee.
Yes. I was born on August 19th, 1973, and the opening day for Enter the Dragon was August 19th, 1973. And my mother, and I'm a twin, I have a twin brother, and my mother and father and my Uncle Tony were at one of the first showings of Enter the Dragon on August 19th, 1973. And I was up in the womb chilling with my brother. And I heard that, what? And I was like, time to get out of here, let's go. And I jumped out the womb. Jumped out.
I've interviewed you before. You're not like this normally.
I'm telling you.
You're A game. A
My,
game
my
on it.
mother went into labor while they were watching Enter the Dragon. Straight up. Got up, went to Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan, had me and my brother. My brother came out first. I was 10 minutes later, right? And while my mother was recovering and me and my brother were figuring out how this world works, my father goes back and watches the rest of the movie. No bullshit.
Oh my God.
That is straight up true.
Oh,
Straight up true.
Wait.
I didn't know you have a twin brother. Does people come up to him all the time saying, "Oh my God"? John
No, we're
Travolta"?
fraternal twins, so thankfully
so
he
that-
got all the looks.
Oh yeah.
He got all the looks.
Yeah, you look terrible.
So yeah. He's the handsome one. But yeah, and every year of my life I watch that movie on my birthday.
That's so
It's a family movie. August 19th,
On your
1973.
birthday. Anybody else have something interesting happen on the day they were born? That's an interesting question.
No,
I've
but
never
also
thought
went
about
into
that.
labor watching Sons of Anarchy.
Oh
I
yeah?
wonder if the motorcycle. jolted
Yeah,
something.
there's something about it. I mean,
And
Bruce
I
Lee
also
came
have
through and
twins.
was like,
And you have
How's
twins.
that?
I have twins, boy-girl twins. Yeah.
Born during Sons of Anarchy, or
while I was watching Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
So what is it with twins and watching?
I don't know,
Anyway.
say maybe the loud motorcycle was like
Yeah, it's
jolted one to
Action movies, yeah.
I don't know.
Amy, do you
Helps birth.
have a favorite movie?
One of my all-time favorite movies is also a George Lucas movie, American Graffiti, which my dad introduced me to, and when I was a little kid, and I grew up in a car family, so that's
That's a great movie.
That's a great
Have you all seen it? It's a little older for some of you, but it's,
Yeah,
it's,
I mean,
it's a
it's-
pretty good movie. Great soundtrack.
the best soundtrack.
That was half the
We
half
still
the
have
budget.
the record.
Half the budget was the soundtrack.
Yeah,
for that movie.
it's a fantastic record. So
it's,
there's many more, but I'm gonna go with American Graffiti.
having a hard time. You go. We have several now. I actually can't pick just one. I have 4 favorite films.
You can pick all 4. You can
And I can recite scenes from all 4 because I love it so much. Ever After with Drew Barrymore, Cinderella story. Oh my goodness, so romantic, love it. I've watched it probably 20 times now.
All the women.
I'm like,
Never
what
Ending
is this?
Story. My favorite, the dragon. Ugh, I'm in love with the dragon.
Never ending story.
Luck Dragon.
Never Ending Story. Slumdog Millionaire. So unique a film. I thought it was amazing. And then the one that I probably liked the most, which I watched as a kid, was Labyrinth. David Bowie
Dance, magic dance.
killed it. Yes, he
That's
was.
a George Lucas film.
Oh, is it really?
George Lucas produced it. George Lucas and Jim
I
Henson
didn't
produced
even
it.
know. Yeah,
I think
amazing.
Jim Henson directed it, right? Or was it Frank Oz?
Was
Frank
not
Oz?
Frank Oz. Frank Oz did
Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal, yes.
Okay.
But yeah, probably my favorite out of all 4 was the Labyrinth.
Everything I've done.
So
and I've
we
done
are
for
open
you.
to audience questions. If you guys, anybody have any questions, just raise your hand. And
I
where's my
rule
mic
the
guy?
stars for no one.
Just come up here. Come here. Or just tell it to me.
Go for Michonne.
Because we're out of mics for some reason. We're in freaking
Project.
Dallas and we don't have any mics.
Project.
What you got? Of course.
There's 2 moments in all the Star Wars TV shows that have ever made me like jump off my couch and scream at the TV. One is Luke showing up in The Mandalorian, and number 2 is when the elevator opens and we get to see you come back to the screen, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
And the question part of it is, when you got the call that you were going to do that, when Lucasfilm invited you to do that, what did you do when you got the call?
I didn't. I wasn't all on board all the way, to be honest. Jon Favreau. I got a call from Favreau, and he was just like, "Can you come and have lunch with me and Filoni?" And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I never met Favreau before, but I knew Filoni because I did Clone Wars. You know, so I did a bunch of Clone Wars, and Filoni was the director on Clone Wars. So I've known Filoni for years. So I was like, "Yeah, sure," you know. And I had a feeling that it was going to be something Mandalorian-based, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And it was a really cool lunch. We just kind of, you know, talked and had a conversation. We were just talking, you know, about life. And then they were like, okay, we're thinking about doing something for The Mandalorian. And I was just like, okay, let me think about it. You know, Star Wars has a tendency to kind of take over your life. And I didn't know if I wanted to do that again. You know what I'm saying? It's like a tsunami sometimes. And, you know, as you all know, sometimes the fandom could be brutal. And I just didn't want to put myself in that position again, you know? But the reason why I said yes was because John and Dave were just like, we will make sure that you are safe. And we'll protect you, you know, as best we can. And I was like, okay, you better. And then Carl Weathers directed the episode. And rest in peace, Carl, my brother. Miss that dude. And he's a hero of mine. So I was just like, okay, all right. I'll jump in. I'll come back into this place. And then, like, as soon as you step on the set, you're back. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is just like, oh. And then this was before Ahsoka. They were just talking about Ahsoka. And I'm doing the Jedi on stage, and I'm just, like, running through some of the fight stuff and beating people up. And Hayden walks in, and I'm like, yo, what are you doing here? And I hadn't seen Hayden in years, you know? Hayden walks in, and we have this really cool moment, you know? I just, like, grab him. You know, Hayden was so young during Clones. And now he's like a big man, as a kid now. He's like a man now, So I was like, well, what are you doing here? I was like, I know what I'm doing here. What are you doing here? And he was like, yeah, And I was like, bro, you are not going to Star Wars NDA me. We go too far back for that. So he told me that, they were doing Ahsoka and that he was going to come back. So that made it even more special.
Oh, that's so cool.
Thank you.
All right, that's cool.
Glad to be back.
So we have another question.
So Ahmed, this is for you as well, and if y'all can speak to it as you pitch in. So Legos rebuild the universe.
Rebuild the galaxy, yeah.
Rebuild the galaxy. Did you voice Jar Jar in that, and what do you think about Darth Jar Jar being
Yeah,
the
I
Sith?
did. I came back as Darth Jar Jar. I always really loved the Darth Jar Jar stuff because there was some of it that it was like a Reddit post, and there was a guy who went in on Phantom Menace, and he was like, Darth, he's got to be a Sith Lord, right? But some of the stuff that I did, he picked up on. A lot of the things that I did as Jar Jar were super subtle, right? And it wasn't, the animators didn't even know what I was doing. They just kind of just did it. They kind of just copied. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would do something, and then they would just animate what I did. But I was doing a lot of mimicking of the Jedis, right? Like, the Jedis would do all of these things to try to influence people, and I'd just be like, what are they doing? Like, why are they doing that? Right? And then I always tell people this, but the influence physically for Jar Jar was Buster Keaton and Jackie Chan. I did a lot of drunken kung fu as I was coming, like drunken style kung fu. And so Jar Jar, that whole battle scene is a Buster Keaton movie with Jackie Chan thrown in, because it was all of that like kind of drunken style kung fu stuff. And the cat on Reddit saw it. And he was like the only person who picked it up. Jackie Chan didn't even pick it up. I was like, damn it. But yeah, so a lot of that stuff that Darth Jar Jar came from stuff that I actually did. And then it all of a sudden like became its own thing and took a life of its own. And then the Lego guys were just like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. Especially because I get the Millennium Falcon. Like, nobody gets, that's the most exciting thing about Darth Jar Jar is the Dark Falcon. Like, that's my ride now. And especially as a young person who wanted to grow up being Han Solo, now I get the Dark Falcon.
All right, we have time for just one more question. This guy in the hat right here, the nice little Empire hat.
This is for all of you guys. I'm old enough to have gone through, like, seeing it when I was the prequels when I was like in my 20s. And I was probably like a grumpy fan at the time, but like I left seeing the 25th anniversary almost in tears how much I love Star Wars. How's it been for you guys with everybody coming around? And it seems like the fan base has really come around. They're focused on hating other things right now, I guess. But how's it been for you all to, I feel like the love you guys are getting and things like that now that, like the 25th anniversary and things.
Yeah, I definitely feel that there's been some sort of resurgence. I started slowly kind of coming back and doing shows in like 2021, and I was like, wow, this is really, people are still coming to meet me, to get their figures signed. Now Funko's like, it's really come back to me in a positive way. Because for a couple years, maybe like 2017, 2018, I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna just focus on my kids, and I kind of thought I was done, I guess you could say. And then I came back. I did a show in Texas. I was here, and I just was like, I should be doing this more, because this is actually, it was a great experience. Everybody was like so happy to see me, and it was all about the prequels and how much, like I said earlier, I grew up on these movies. It's just, yeah, it's. Michonne and I talk about this all the time. I said, when you start doing conventions again, you're gonna have all these prequel babies. And it's really true. Yeah. It's like all the kids that grew up on it. Yeah, it's come full circle. So, thank you.
So I want to thank you all for coming. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I think we have another panel coming.
Oh
at
man,
5,
I had
right?
a really good answer to you.
Okay, wait. Well, do we have a 5 o'clock panel?
Yes, but go for it. They already said it's fine. Just go for it.
Oh, okay.
All right, go for it. Let's get it. I'm sorry, I mean hit you.
No
Don't
worries.
hurt me.
So George called me on the release date of the 25th, right? And I was I'm directing a video game, and I was on set, and I was like, I can't talk right now, I'm directing. Right? And then I was like, I'll call you when I'm on lunch. And I'm on lunch, and I call him, and he goes, so you're a director now, huh? You can't take my phone call, can you? Boo, 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 big guy. And I was like, wow. Yes, George, I'm directing now. But we had a really, really long conversation about what we've been through in the past 25 years from this film, this very first film. And there was a lot of talk about film technique. Every film technique from the beginning of film to right now is in The Phantom Menace. Every single one. It is a pioneering piece of work. It changed not only the movie industry, but it changed video games. It changed how we tell stories. It changed how we look at everything now. Now we judge CGI in its sophistication. But when The Phantom Menace first came out, there was no such thing. None whatsoever. There was a lot of adversity that we had to go through in order to make that movie. George took as many hits as I did, maybe even more, and still pushed through and did Clones and did Sith. But the biggest thing we talked about was the Force. And, George is a little bit of a grumpy old man now. I just saw him for his birthday. Him and Sam Jackson, who said the same thing. He was like, there's no evidence, no body. I'm still alive. I'm like, okay, Sam, I just want to eat this cake. No, I'm alive. Can I eat my cake now? But George was just like, now everybody gets this Force thing wrong. Everyone thinks that the balance, this is from him, not from me. Everybody thinks that the balance is the light side and the dark side. That's not the case. The light side is balanced. The dark side is out of balance. The dark side is easy. It's accessible. It's corruption. It's the easy way out. It's the not practicing, right? Yin and yang is white and black, right? Hot and cold. You don't judge your stove evil and your refrigerator good because one is hot and one is cold, right? You need both in order to make good food. You need both in order to eat. So when you're talking about the Force, and you're talking about being in balance with the Force, it's not the dark side versus the light side. It's the light side as balance, and the dark side as being the place you don't want to go because it's too easy. You talk about the Jedis, like everybody's like, why don't the Jedis use Sith fire? They choose not to because it's too easy. So when we think about this, and George's last thing that he said, he was like, what I want everybody to know is when you're talking about the Force, you're talking about this unseen feeling, this unseen thing that ties us all together, which is love. And his whole thing was like, he wants everybody to know that God is love. And it doesn't need a name, right? That's why he called it a force, right? And that was probably the best thing that I got from him after all of these 25 years. And then I told him, I said to him, I always considered myself George's student because he was pretty much my first kind of, don't tell my father this, my father's a filmmaker, but he was really my film school. I was there every day, even on my days off, which is why Anthony Daniels got me to do a part for free, right? So I learned just by watching him, and I don't know how long George is gonna be here for, he's 80, he's getting up there, but I was like, I'm gonna say this to you right now. I'll probably see you again in like a year, but I'm saying it to you now. I always consider myself your student, and I promise you, I will show you that I'm your best student. And so after 25 years, it's really good to see that Star Wars and these movies have given us not only like the entertainment, but the ability to dream, to imagine, and to remember that this force that we all share is love.
Very good.
And now there's a 5 o'clock panel.
And well, I want to thank you guys all for ladies and sir. Thank you for coming. And you guys are all going to be here for the rest of the weekend in the autograph hall, which is great. So we're going to see you down there. And you're doing really good. I think you're going to. I think you have a future doing panels. I think.
Yeah.
There is. We recorded it. We recorded it. It's going to be. So we're going to.
All right.
The whole world's going to watch it. So I want to thank you guys very much for coming.
That'll
have a
be
good weekend.
1995.